Welcome to SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. I'm your host, Susie St. Angelo, and thank you for being here. Today's episode is called Style and Transition, Dressing Your Changing Body. And my guest today is Beth Divine. If it sounds familiar, it should. She's been here once before to talk about style in general, but today she's talking a lot more about weight loss, not only her own personal weight loss journey, but working with others who've had a weight loss journey. She's an image consultant, and she goes out with people and helps them find perfect outfits for perfect occasions or a changing career or for various things. And one of them is weight loss. So I'm sure she'll be a wealth of information on today's episode. This podcast is for you if you know you want to change something. Maybe it's your career, your health, or another aspect of your life, and you're not sure if this is the right age or stage to make the change. And you don't know how to start. Well, keep listening to this podcast because you'll take away one or two small steps that you can do right now to make a difference in your life. Or maybe you're one of those people caught in analysis paralysis. I know, I understand, I used to feel the same way, but just stay with me. And this is a reminder, you can find this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, Apple, and Amazon platforms. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And now let's get into today's conversation with Beth Divine. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Hi, Susie. I'm great. How are you?
Great. Thank you for coming back on SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. I'm excited to have you back, and I think this conversation is so timely that we're going to have. So I wanted to, first of all, ask you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, especially for people who maybe didn't watch the first episode we did last year. So just briefly tell people what you do as an image consultant.
Okay. Well, I met Susie, actually. Susie was one of my clients, probably, 6-7 years ago. But I am a personal stylist and image consultant, and I started out my career. I worked 25 years in marketing, mostly as a writer, and toward the end of my tenure as in marketing, I started getting involved with more artistic end. Like I had always been the one who volunteered to coordinate photo shoots because I loved it. And I started doing more and more of that because in my office here in Indianapolis, other people didn't want to do that. So I loved it. But a lot goes into that. You have your photos have to be what the designer wants when he or she puts it into a template. So I really kind of was always involved with the visual creative end of whatever I was doing. And then I left my job and wanted to do something else. I did bridal makeup for 2 years. And from that, I morphed into personal stylist, image consultant. I started doing all the many trainings that I did, and which I think you need to do. I first trained in West Hollywood, LA. Then I trained in Manhattan for 10 days. That was my certification program. And then I found AICI Global, and they are an international professional association for image consultants. I love their training. So I started training with them, and I became certified through them. And then I just kind of started my practice. I did my own website with design help, because I knew how to do that. I've done marketing for years. So that's kind of where I am. I've done this for 12 years now. I'm coming up on 8 years being certified. So I can say during that time, of course, a lot of who I am as a person goes into how I help people, because it's person to person. And so as I've changed, I feel like I can help my clients better. I understand issues, and aging is the inevitable, like taxes, have to have insurance. I feel like we're all getting there, and I found I'm going to go to you, Susie. When I came to you, I had stopped running, and running was like a cure-all for me. I could eat whatever I wanted, basically, but I ran 5 times a week, probably 40 miles a week. And I got to the point where I didn't think that was so good for me anymore. And things that worked in your 40s and 50s kind of no longer work as you go beyond that. That's the big thing I want people to understand. Even if you meet your weight loss, your body's not going to be the same as it was when you're 20, you know. So, but with you, you really helped me get past that plateau. I'd gone through nutrition classes. I've often worked at hospitals and they're great. I went through some wonderful nutrition classes, which I think are really helpful. But I knew how to eat. I'd always worked out. I'd always done a lot of cardio. I hated weightlifting. I always heard it's really good, and I thought that can't be true. But so when I worked with you, it was that accountability that really helped because just like at my church, when people are new in the faith, they're often discipled by people who've been in the faith a long time, and you need that accountability, that like a coach, a help, and that's what I think you did a really good job with, Susie, because you had been there yourself, and so I kept kind of plateauing, and then I did start counting calories on a app, but that helped me because I had no idea how much I was eating, and I definitely was not eating enough protein for all the exercise I was doing. And then I finally, like this is real common, women of a certain age, your arms don't look as great as they used to. And I wasn't ready to be one of those ladies who said, I don't want to show my arms. I didn't want to do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to lift some hand weights. And I worked with a trainer 1 or 2 times. He was great. He told me, you need to use hand weights, but you need to slowly increase. And so I started doing that. I'm up to 10 pounds now in my hand weights, but I started at 3 because I never did that. But thank you. I was always a cardio person. I love cardio. I love working out, love the effects. But once I started, I was almost at my goal with you. Once I started using the hand weights, that was like that was amazing. I was losing weight faster. And I lift weights 3 times a week. So you helped me understand kind of how exercise has to change as you get older. You need more weight bearing. And I'd heard this. We had a person in our Sunday school class at church. She did a women's class, but this woman she looks like an athlete. I thought I'm not like her, but she said you need a lot of weight bearing, and I thought maybe. But when I was not getting the effects I wanted after I lost the weight, okay, so the weights helped me lose the weight. I've lost the weight now. But one thing I noticed, I still had weight in my middle. And I thought that would go away because I always had a small waist. And it's gotten better, but it's still not what it was. So I kind of have to accept that. I could do something about it, but I have to be real. I'm not going to do 100 sit-ups 3 times a week. I'm just not going to do it. So anyway, so that's kind of where I am now. I have, clothes that I bought when I was bigger because I was bigger for like a year, and I'm 5'4", so 15 pounds on someone who's 5'4" is really a lot. It's 2 sizes, and so I didn't buy a lot, but I needed to have nice clothes because when I work with clients, I need to look nice. So I had these clothes that I wore over and over, which I don't think is a bad idea when you're losing weight. It's kind of a necessity. Now I'm kind of like looking at my wardrobe, trying to figure out what I can keep, what I need to do with it, what holes I have in my wardrobe, and what really pays to alter.
Yeah. So let's back up because people may not know that I am a certified health coach. And so I've used your services and now you've used mine. And part of our deal was to hold you accountable, and that was weekly check-ins, and sometimes more than once a week. And I was a big proponent of more protein and also strength training and keeping with that. And I think people view strength training as getting bulky. And so I like to do strength training now. I can't say that when I started I liked it, but when you can see, and you just said from moving from 3 pounds to 10, there were certain exercises for me too as I was going through my journey that I couldn't do certain things, and now I'm doing heavier weights, and it really shows in your confidence and your posture, and knowing you can do the hard work and the tough work. And I truly agree with what you said, Beth, about your body changes. What you did in your 20s, 30s, and 40s is great, but you have to shift, and our bodies can't tolerate maybe the stress level of maybe running all that time, or the hormone changes that creates differences. And so part of our conversation today is to talk about your journey, and how that's changed you, and with your business too. You're probably seeing a lot more people who are using these GLP-1 medications, and they're probably going through some shifts, whether it's psychological, physical, whatever it is. And I imagine that both men and women are coming to you wanting some help with dressing as they change their bodies.
Well, across the board in the years that I've been an image consultant, I'll be honest with you, I don't often get people who are who look like models, because when you're very thin, you really don't have to be strategic in what you wear. You look. Now, I have had a few clients who are that way, and but their issues are very different. I almost always have people of all ages who say COVID was another. What is going on in the world always affects my business, because back 6 years ago when COVID started, and people were told to stay at home, and they worked on their computers, and suddenly they were worried about how they looked on Zoom at first. People aren't worried about it now because I've been told everyone turns off the camera. But back then, so that was a societal shift. And I noticed that early on because people were coming to me, especially as they had to go back to work, and they didn't have any clothes, or they had gained 20 pounds, and they weren't the same people. And that two-piece expensive suit didn't feel right anymore. There was a shift in who they are. So whenever you change who you are as a person, that affects how other people see you. It affects how you wear clothes. It's very tied. Your psyche and your image are one. And a lot of how you feel about yourself comes from inside, and it emanates out. And we see that. So back in COVID, people were worried about, I put on some weight, I've been sitting around, I'm not putting on a lot of makeup or getting my hair cut. So we would just laugh about it. And I related because I had to kind of bring my business in too. So that was a major shift. And then now, technology is a major shift we all deal with, whether it's AI or whether it's advances in medicine. Advances in medicine can be wonderful, but they forever change who we are. Because I worked in a hospital, and a big hospital, and part of my job was when we had a new technology, and the hospital I worked for was known for this, and they were the only ones who did it. That was the number one thing in your marketing. We're the only one in the Midwest who does it. But anyway, technology is going to continue to change us, good or bad. So these new drugs, people are using them. It's not just it used to be limited to pre-diabetic. And I'm going to give a shout out to my brother, who he was a hefty guy. Everyone in our family is we're chunky and we love our desserts. And my brother was a big guy. He worked at Hummer in South Bend. his doctor told him, you either lose weight or we start you on insulin. And I know my brother has never been on a diet, but he lost 40 pounds and he lost it on his own. He didn't use the drugs. And I mean, I was impressed by that, but he had to do it. And a lot of people are taking these new drugs because their doctor wants them to, or they've been, I had one client in particular that I just worked with a month ago. She has the unfortunate dilemma of being a mother of the bride and mother of the groom, all in the same summer. And she had gained a lot of weight and started using the drugs in April. So she came to me and she said, I need these occasion dresses, but I don't want to buy a dress that in 2 months, these weddings are in the middle of summer, 2 months, they look really bad on me. So, Justin, do you want me to dive into tips about clothing or? Okay. So working with her, and she was a long-term client. And what I'm really seeing is a lot of long-term clients are coming back and they're having weight changes. Several, I know right now, are in the middle of it. And usually their approach is, I don't want to come to you until I'm all done, or I want to come to you in the middle when I don't have a long way to go and maybe get some new clothes, halfway. So this client, she needed occasion dresses. And if you know anything about occasion dresses, it's like altering a wedding gown. You have to be, I remember my wedding gown, I let the store do it because it had so many complicated parts to it. It had tulle, it had glitter, it was satin. So occasion dresses are notoriously hard to alter. So that's right there. So, and she's also petite, which is, the retail world is not kind to people outside of that size 8, 10, 12, and most people aren't even in that range, but she was 5 feet. She had gained weight. She was starting on her drug therapy. She was starting to lose. So we ended up working online because there's a more robust occasion shopping online in petite. So what I told her right off, and these weddings were not like evening weddings, so they did not require a ball gown, so that was a plus. But also, just a tip, when I'm doing wedding shopping with someone, I tell them, I said, yes, we can go to the run-of-the-mill department store and buy you a dress off the rack, but you have to understand, someone could come to this wedding with the very same dress. So I kind of discourage that, but it can be okay. You can make it yours with your accessories. But we ended up ordering a couple of dresses. But what I told her is, as I said, like for instance, altering a wedding dress, you need a specialist to do that. And when her dresses were more simple, but one thing that is a must when you're losing weight and you need formal clothing is clean lines. These are lines, like lines, not with a bunch of ruffles or a bunch of details or a very unusual neckline, asymmetrical neckline. And that is really difficult to alter. What we picked were a couple of dresses that were simple A-line dresses. And I told her, I said, a good alterations person, and be picky, because these fabrics are not that easy to work with. She did have a little bit of tulle on the sleeve, but I said, your alterations expert can do darting and in at the side. They can also, a real easy alteration is to pull up. I do that a lot because I have really small shoulders. So, but we really discussed that. You cannot go out there and buy a dress with 10 tiers of tulle ruffles. You cannot alter those. That is not worth altering. So that's kind of where we are. She has her dresses now. She's very happy with them. I thought it was funny though that both of the dresses were dark in color. She did buy one dress that was blue that had some ruching, but it was pretty much a straight line, so she can take that in. But that was kind of where we went with that, because I, you know,
So let me ask you this. Do people who are coming to you and they're experiencing weight loss, Beth, do they say, or what do they say? Should I get a whole new wardrobe, or should I just get a few basic pieces as I transition to lower weight?
well, it also it depends on how well I know them. A lot of the people kind of in my radar right now have been clients for years, like over 5 years. And I've seen them go up in weight, go down in weight. So I kind of give them advice all along. If we work together once or twice a year, um, but yes, I'll tell them if they're at the very beginning and asking me, I'll say, "This is your time to buy at Amazon." Don't lie. And honestly, I don't direct clients to Amazon because I don't like to do that. But if you're in the middle of weight gain, it's okay because you're not going to keep these clothes forever. And Amazon does have a pretty healthy inventory of basics now that you can get. So I would say like a these are hard to alter. I would not suggest buying expensive jeans. Like a good straight leg pant, a chino without pockets is easy to alter. But when you're in the very first phase of this, I tell them buy some inexpensive things that are core colors and coordinate them, like maybe navy, green, and khaki, and interchange them. But don't go out and buy a pair of Sing a Set jeans right now. You know, they're $400. They're amazing. So are Paige, but I would not buy them when you're in the middle of losing weight.
But I would also want to know too, are there certain brands that you recommend as you're going through, besides like buying on Amazon, are there certain brands that you recommend? And also, accessories play a huge part in this too.
They do. They do. I would say, um, brand wise, I'll tell you what I would not recommend, and that is very detailed jeans with a lot of stuff on them, top stitching, pockets. Those are about impossible to alter. So, but if you want something to get you through an inexpensive time, I like jeans at Target. Universal Style, I think, is one of them. Their jeans are pretty good and they're not expensive. Actually, a lot of Target's clothes are good for this time, and you can try them on. I would recommend that you try them on. And if the how fast you lose weight is different with every person. But I would try to go and get them live, and maybe buy them a little bit snug. Because if you're losing every week, if you don't, they're going to be big in a minute. So I would tell you invest in less expensive clothing and don't even alter yet. Don't alter. Don't even think about altering until you've lost all your weight and the weight has had a little time to settle. That would be my recommendation. Other brands, J. Crew Factory is a wonderful store. I still buy from it. Their prices are low. Often you walk in there and it's 40% off. They have a lot of, and one hint, just in general, with when carry a lot of weight in your arms and belly and you're buying tops, think woven. not knit. Knit is not going to be kind, and you may never go back to knit. I mean, a woven shirt covers up everything that fits you. Also, thin sweaters, they are not forgiving. That's why I always tell people you need jackets. Now, of course, Susan, your sweater is the exception. That sweater looks good. But tip, if you are a sweater lover, put a woven shirt under it. It's like a foundation, like a collared shirt. But cotton jackets, blazer jackets that you don't pay a lot of money for, those are going to be good as you lose weight. And especially those with cinching, like the military jackets, you can tighten the cinch as you lose weight. J. Crew often has a lot of military jackets. Macy's too. Macy's has some, Karen Scott is a good inexpensive brand. Nordstrom, Halogen, they're kind of more pricey. But that's kind of what I would do, though. I would,
Good list.
when you're, pardon?
That's a good list. That's a really good list.
Yeah. But I think try to get in the habit of buying clothes live, because even after you've lost all your weight, like my dilemma, I don't know what size I wear. I really don't, because I used to wear pretty small size, and then I gained and it was fine. But now that small size, what I hear this over and over from clients is, even if they're not trying to lose weight, from year to year, they say something has shifted. I mean, I hear that over and over. And that's true, because, after menopause, going into later years with women, you do carry more weight in your middle. There's no doubt. No doubt. So, I'm kind of like, what size do I really wear? So I tend to try things on. I like to do that anyway, but
So I was listening to another podcast where she had a stylist on, and she said every morning she goes into her closet and says, "How do I want to feel?" And she was giving advice to the listeners about, what worked for her then doesn't work now. Like some clothing that was for a certain purpose doesn't work now, and everyone should go through their closet. And I know you do closet clean outs as well, and that's a great way to have someone begin working with you. But she also talked about, which I think is really interesting, about undergarments and why people don't pay enough attention to their undergarments. And I really have valued that for several years, about the importance, whether it's my bedtime clothes or what I have underneath my clothes, that they're nice and feminine and they make me feel good.
that's so true. When I do my style and color appointment, I go through a book, and on the very last page, at the top of the page, it says, "How long has it been since you've had a bra fitting?" And people who lose weight are definitely going to need a bra fitting. But again, I wouldn't say do it midway. I try and do it at the end, because the kind of bras I advocate for you to buy are, they're more high priced, but they fit you perfectly. And I had one woman tell me when she finally got a new bra, she said, "I feel like I've had a facelift." But the bra band is what really, it holds you up. A good bra holds you up instead of, the gravity of the sagging and all that. So also, I love shapers. It's very individual. If you're the kind of person that says, "I cannot stand a super tight Spanx shaper," then I wouldn't use it.
You wouldn't be comfortable in it
Exactly.
at all.
Exactly. So I find my shapers at Sonoma, actually, and they're medium in their strength. And they're not terribly long shorties. They're short and they go all the way to the top and they're effective. I like those. But yes, and I agree with you. Just a little side note. It's so wonderful to have nice pajamas and nightgowns that you wash. I mean, maybe you wash them in, I have some lavender detergent and they smell good. It's just so comforting and it makes you feel good. And so, yeah, I mean, closet cleanses, when I do a closet cleanse, it's never the first appointment because because a lot of what I do is personal styling, which means I'm going to know you pretty well before I can even go into your closet and think, what needs to be done here? And I base it on style is also part of how you feel. And style is key, but sometimes style can be inhibited by what you do for a living. I just case in point, I talked with someone yesterday. She's an entrepreneur. She just sold her company about a year ago, but this company still uses her to do the face-to-face work. And the first thing she told me was, something has shifted. I'm like, there it is. And so she said, I'm a little heavier than what I used to, but I just kind of, I always tell people, try to dress for who you are now. Because on the other side of this, there are other people, excuse me, who won't go with the drug therapies, who will do it on their own, and they may never lose that 10 to 15 pounds. And that's okay. I always tell, accept yourself where you are and try and dress who you are now within reason. But she said something has shifted in the front, but she's kind of an enigma because she's a little bit hard to dress because she is a girly girl, but she's in the business world. She loves nothing more than a dress full of flowers, bright flowers, but I would never advocate for her to get up in front of people at a business conference and wear a dress with flowers or a blouse with flowers. And she's done that in the past. She had me come over, we looked at her closet, and I just told her, my opinion is, if you're a speaker at a conference, you need to look impeccable. Yes, you need to look approachable, but I would not be covered in flowers. But at the same time, we shopped yesterday. She is a winter. She has a beautiful complexion. I mean, her complexion is gorgeous. And I had posted a hot pink blazer, very tailored, in one of my Instagram posts, and she was talking about, oh, I love that. And when we were shopping, that blazer was still there. And so I pulled it for her, and she was trying it on with some other less girly tops because she was dressing for a pretty big conference in Boston. And I wanted her to look credible. But I knew that deep down, that little girl was saying, where are my flowers? So I went back to the rack and I found a really beautiful floral blouse that it's kind of a modern floral, white background. And it went with that blazer. So I brought it back and I said, wear the blazer with it when you're speaking. If you want to wear the blouse with your wide leg pants at the networking, great. But you need that credibility of the blazer. So she put that blazer on that blouse and she was just, oh, I love this. So it is a lot of how you feel, what your style is, and also what are your signature pieces. This is kind of something that I've kind of grown into just because I've worked with people for so long, and of course I style myself, and I find myself always going back, and everyone does it, to a couple of outfits that are just me. And one that I go to all the time, and I have on right now, is a blazer, some kind of t-shirt or blouse. Sometimes I wear concert t-shirts that I've been to or Broadway musicals or something. And then I wear some kind of pant, whether it's a straight jean or a chino, and then some kind of interesting shoe, like a flat or a really nice sneaker. Like I got a new pair of Adidas sneakers. But that's one of my signature looks. And it's really important for you to understand what are your signature looks and why you like them and why you feel like you. Because if we go shopping and I dress you in something that is so far from your signature look and what you like, you're going to feel like a fake. You're going to feel
You
like,
won't feel comfortable at all in
no,
your
like,
own
who
skin.
am I? You know?
Yeah. Well, and that goes to the point about, the weight loss and how people, their bodies are shifting, and probably some of their old identity is going away, and there's this new person that's been, hiding behind weight gain and some of the issues surrounding that. And so all of a sudden, when you say that, about dressing your your style and your signature, that has to be a little bit of a challenge because, um, for someone who's continuing to lose weight, men or women, and I know you work with both men and women, that has to come into play about.
It does. It does. Yes and no. Um, even it definitely does because you might think, wow, I've never been able. Part of what you like is what you felt like you couldn't wear before. So suddenly you have this new like playground of styles. Like, oh, well, I'm 35 pounds thinner. I think I can wear this now. So that's the exciting part when you lose weight. So you might discover some new signature styles. Like maybe you always felt like you were too heavy to wear um, a dress with a fitted waist or a belt, and now you can. So yes, that's a good point, Susan. Is that losing weight may expand what you can wear? That's definitely true. So it's really like that, the discovery of something new, but it's also kind of rooted in this is who I am. Like, for instance, the woman who loves the floral, I was trying to have her try some new styles that I thought were really, really flattering and really, really professional looking, but I knew they were a little outside. Like, we tried on a wrap shirt with vertical lines, but it had a little wrap tie at the side. It was blue and white. It was looked really nice on her. She couldn't quite take the plunge, so we didn't do that. But she definitely bought some things that were out of her comfort zone. So it's a lot of different things. Sometimes signature styles hold you back too. So I always try to push people a little bit when we shop, try something new that maybe they haven't tried. And then you really touched on something. And I'm going to tell a story real quick that goes back to my early days. My first job, I wrote feature stories for the employee magazine at a hospital. And of course, we would always emphasize health, you know. And the lady I wrote about had lost 100 pounds, and that's a lot. And I think she did it on her own. So I interviewed her, and we took a picture of her before and after. But then a year later, she gained a lot of it back. But I remember when I talked to her, I felt like there was some unsureness about, so you're becoming almost another person. You might look at, I read this on my phone this morning. I'm not a psychologist, but I read it. There's a syndrome that you have, especially with a lot of weight loss. You look in the mirror, and number one, you don't see how you really look. You're still seeing that other person that was 40 pounds heavier. Or you look in the mirror and you don't know that person, and you think, it's an identity shift, no doubt. It is, and it's scary. And then I've had this fear. If you've ever been one that loses weight and gains weight your whole life, which I have, you think, well, I don't want to buy too many clothes at this size because What if I gain it back? that's a that's a really and that's completely normal. And you might gain a little back. So
It is normal, and there is, there's people like me who can help work on that and change the mindset, and also change the patterns and holding people accountable. But there's something really, I mean, when I went through my journey, and I committed to it, I just felt this pride of how I was able to do it and do it healthy and do it over time. There wasn't a race to lose it fast because it didn't come on fast either. And for me, I wasn't looking for, oh, you look great, people commenting on it. I wanted to feel great inside. I wanted to sleep better. I wanted to walk better. I didn't want to have achy joints and sore places that, I had been feeling that soreness. So, it is about the whole person and that journey, and I guess I want to ask you, what have you learned about your own weight loss and journey and working with others who are going through it?
it's weight loss to me is like an elephant in the room in any client interaction. With me, I don't really like to talk about weight loss because I don't want people to feel bad if they haven't done that. If they ask me, like my husband's famous saying, "No one wants unsolicited advice." I think that's pretty good. But if someone asks me, I'll be glad and tell them. But I think, and I worked with you. Has it been almost a year? Yeah. So I lost weight very slowly, very. And a lot of it was another thing that you taught me that was so important was we travel a lot, and though that is a downfall for me on the plane. We just discussed healthy snacks. And that was epic to me because I would just eat the Delta cookies, the Biscoff and the coffee, but that helped. But I think, as far as I'm concerned, if someone asks me, I'll tell them. If they don't, I don't really talk about it with clients. If everyone fills out a questionnaire, and a lot of times they'll tell me I'm there. So then we talk. I just kind of gently talk about it. I try to see if they're really seriously losing weight, like with the drug therapies. That's one thing. But if someone tells me, like my client the other day, I'm 15 pounds heavier than I want to be right now. So I say, oh, okay. You know, there's help for that if you need a referral, and I'll refer you, Susan. But if they never bring it up again, then I don't either. So, but it is kind of the elephant in the room if it's brought up, and then we'll talk about it. And then I like to refer because I'm not a nutritionist.
But I'm pleased people are talking about it if they want to, and especially, if they're volunteering information that helps you work with them and style things for either the long haul or for specific occasions, because it's timing, and some of it is seasonal and some of it's time sensitive. But I wanted to ask you what your SOS is. What's one or two things that people who might be listening or watching today can take with them?
Okay. Well, number one, just a simple tip. If your goal is to lose 30 or 40 pounds, don't even think about altering any of your clothes until the end of that. And you still need to feel good and look nice during this process. So don't feel like it's an excuse to just wear old t-shirts and pants because you're losing weight, because then you won't feel good. So I would just say, don't alter until the end, and I can help you decide what to alter and what to not alter, because there's a definite learning curve about that. But during the process, um, try to look nice, buy inexpensive clothes, and then add, it doesn't even have to be clothes, as you mentioned, Susan. Wear some fun earrings. Like I have some fun earrings. Buy a bright yellow purse or some new shoes. Um, but it's okay to spend while you're in that process because otherwise it might be really depressing. We don't want you to be depressed.
No, it shouldn't be. It should be pretty exciting, and you know, it's a journey. But is there anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't get to?
What I would just tell people in general is love yourself, um, no matter where you are in life. Even if you lose that weight, great. If you don't, that's great too. It's not the end of the world ever. And sometimes we have a goal and we think, wow, if I could do that, that's going to be the end all. It's not always, like I would just find ways to be kind to yourself. Also, don't discuss it with people. I never really discussed it. One person asked me, because if you bring it up, especially don't bring it up when you're going out to eat with friends. But I do want to share your tips, Susan, if you don't mind. Susan taught me when I eat out, look at the menu before you go. That's a good tip. I never did that. And then you can kind of see what's more healthy. Sometimes I would ask you, I'm going to this restaurant, what should I get? And Susan's very helpful. These are little things that make a huge difference. But I would say when you're in the weight loss process, don't make it your life. Don't discuss it with everyone. Someone asks, great. And surround yourselves with people who encourage you. That is key.
It is key, and it's also about enjoying the journey. And I have a bracelet that says "Enjoy the journey," but it's you're not sure that people will say I will feel this way or I will be this way when I lose this weight. Not necessarily, and it's not the end destination, but along the way, pat yourself on the back and be kind to yourself as you're going through the process because it isn't easy. And you do need a support system, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a health coach like me, or someone that goes along the journey with you.
That's a lot of what you do really well, Susan, is I weigh in with Susan still once a week and she'll say, great job. Or if I've had a really bad week, she'll say, well, you've come really far, keep it up. So your encouragement is really key, the accountability. Because you're not always going to have a great week every week.
No, you won't.
No.
You won't, and believe me, it's the advice I would give myself and do give myself when I have rough weeks. Don't beat yourself up. But
we all do.
Beth, where can people reach you? Where can they find you?
I have a website, BethDivineStyle.com. I'm on Instagram, Be Divine Image Consultant, I think. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I do publish a blog every week about a lot of these issues. And I'm doing some blogs about weight loss and style. So you can sign up for that on my website. If you take my style quiz, it automatically signs you up for my weekly blogs. So, and just my emails, Beth at BethDivine, DIVINE style.com.
Wonderful, Beth. Well, thank you so much for coming back on SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. I've enjoyed this conversation. It's relatable. It's present. It's timely. And so I really appreciate you sharing not only your personal journey, but also some great examples of people you're working with and some great tips for people who are in that weight loss journey. And I know you're going to be a great help to those of us that want to look and feel our best.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, Susan. Always a pleasure.
Well, friends, sadly, that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching or listening to SOS for Your Life, Everyday Life. And thank you, Beth, for coming back on to talk about the weight loss journey you've been on, some of the things that have helped you, and how you determine what to wear during a weight loss journey and when to buy things and what styles are going to look good for you and what things you can alter. So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and personal experience with our listeners and viewers. So, I just a quick reminder on how you can support this podcast: like, share, and subscribe. And also, this podcast is about making small changes that make a big difference in your life. So stay with me because there's a lot you can glean from every interested guest I have. They have a wealth of wisdom and information to share with us. So thanks so much. Until next time, take care. And I hope